Welcome back to another episode of Talk Dead to Me, the only Walking Dead podcast with the guts to start at Season 10. I am your host, Johnny Odell. Now, I'm the social media manager for The Walking Dead. With me, as always, are Woody Tondorf and Alexandra August. What's up, guys?
Ew.
Greetings.
All right, so you guys are probably wondering what this episode's going to be about. And you know what? I'll tell you. It's going to be about The Walking Dead World Beyond. That's the third series that's coming to AMC sometime in probably April, sometime in the spring. And before we get to that, though, we have some breaking news that came out 4 days ago. But that's okay.
But you might not have seen it.
We have it. So Scott Gimple, the chief content officer of The Walking Dead, was a real chatty Cathy with Entertainment Weekly last week. And he decided to drop a few big pieces of information, mostly around Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah, really, really exciting stuff.
Really exciting stuff.
I have not read it yet.
All right, great. Well, this will be new. So Woody, and also Alexandra.
We get some fresh hot takes.
All right, so the first one is that there will be some kind of time jump. How he phrased it was that they're going to play with time again in Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead.
As they are wont to do on the show. You know what? I think they're a little bit behind the rest of the rest of the show. So I think a little bit of a let's do the time warp again.
Let's do the time warp
again to the future.
I was kind of intrigued by the narrative possibilities of having Fear exist in the past, just because I think it could connect with the other two series in really interesting ways. But it's kind of nice to have it caught up because there's such an amorphous.
Well, I didn't say caught up.
Or no, okay, sorry. It's nice to. It would be nice, I think, if it caught up or was in a closer range, just because typically timing in the Walking Dead franchise has been a little vague, and that's always been a teensy bit frustrating for me as a viewer. So it'd be nice if if we had some kind of clarity surrounding that and unity.
Thankfully, Scott Gimple agrees. He says he wants to eventually make all the series and the movie kind of like a Crisis of Infinite Earths thing, which I have heard people watch, and so that must mean that similar timeline. So we'll see if we get there by the end of Season 6. Another thing about Season 6 is that they said each episode, or most of the episodes, are going to be its own self-contained mini-movie, focusing around 1, 2, or 3 characters at a time. Now,
I'm curious to know if they're going to get extended runtimes like Game of Thrones did. I don't like Fear the Walking Dead and Game of Thrones do not have the same impact, but when they say mini movie, that speaks to me of like a 90-minute episode. Which
I don't think that. I think that's why they said mini movie, where it's like it's self-contained story, but it's only an hour long.
Well, maybe instead of like not 90 minutes, but like a full 60 minutes of content.
Sure.
Beyond commercials.
Honestly, though, if somebody says mini movie to me, like that, to me, that I default to slightly longer than an episode of television. So like hour and a half.
It's a big end episode.
Track for me.
With commercials, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's going to be commercials. But really quick before we go on to the next point, who are you guys most excited to see their solo episode for Fear?
John in a like Logan type movie through the wasteland. Like, just make that whole season, please.
100%. Alexandra?
Yeah, I like John by himself. I like him with June as well, but I just I like other people experiencing John and meeting John. That's really fun. But I'm a diehard Strand fan, and I would be tickled if I can't remember where everyone is, if they're all to a man separated at this point. But I also like Strand and or Daniel and Charlie. I think that's a really lovely relationship.
That would be good. For me, it's Skidmark the Cat. I think he would make an excellent solo episode movie, and I hope they go like Homeward Bound.
I was just about to say that.
Oh, that
Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey in the Apocalypse.
So I'm really hoping we get that, because 16 episodes, I mean, do we have enough characters to have like a solo movie, quote unquote, to fit 16 characters? I mean, God knows they have enough people in their little caravan group, but they all got split up. So
do we
are we going to get to the janitor by episode 14?
Did he confirm that did he say anything about the episode count? Because I could potentially see them.
He said 16.
He said 16. Okay. I know they'll have to. I'm sure there is a solution for that problem.
Yep. The next big piece
Kill many of them.
The other big piece of information that was by far the biggest piece of news, last week Fear the Walking Dead tweeted out a picture of Dwight and Sherry, played by Christine Evangelista. We have not seen her since Season 8 of The Walking Dead, when I think she helped Daryl escape, still maybe up in the air. But anyway, not Daryl. Yeah, Daryl. But anyway, when Dwight came into the Fear the Walking Dead, obviously, in season 5. His whole mission was to find Sherry, and there's a lot of dead ends. And eventually, I was like, oh, maybe they'll just give up on the story. But looks like she's definitely coming back in some sort of capacity, whether it's a dream or reality.
I ship it.
She could be a scary ghost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you should ship it. They're married.
Yeah,
She
not,
said she
not all
could-
married couples are fun to watch.
Yeah, you would watch some couples in TV where you're like, oh, that's not going to work. I can't think of one right now in this moment, but I'm sure all of our viewers are screaming.
Tom and Shiv on Succession springs to mind.
What?
I do
You
kind
don't
of
ship Tom and Shiv?
It's not fair. I do kind of like them, but that relationship is very, very dysfunctional.
I'm only like 5 episodes into the first season, so
Oh, you'll get there.
You
I'm
can't
surprised
make a
you already
Tomlet
don't.
without breaking a few Gregs.
amazing. So anyway, that's really exciting that Sherry's coming in. So this actually counts as another crossover character. We're going to talk about crossovers later in this episode because Scott Gimple had even more to say. But anyway,
Jeez, Scott,
This was an info dump.
Turn off the faucet here, Scotty. Come on.
Considering how tight-lipped The Walking Dead has been historically speaking, as like a former journalist who covered it, like this is a lot.
It is a lot. And 2 more pieces of quick information.
What?
One of them, which was a huge bummer, is that Ginny's community, she was kind of the villain introduced at the end of season 5. Turns out she is not part of the CRM 3-Circle community, which is a huge bummer. I was hoping
I'm not bummed about that.
one of the CRMs would stand for whatever her community is called, but it's not. She's just a,
Jerk.
regular, villain cowgirl. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of her. We haven't seen enough of her, but not part of CRM. Kind of a bummer, but I hope they still wrap some 3-Circle-ness into it later this season.
I'm kind of fine with her being her own thing just because she is so weird. And she's like she's a little bit inscrutable because like she does seem like an asshole genuinely, but she also seems to have maybe been an asshole because of what she's experienced and because like this kind of like in a Negan sense, like that worked for him. Like he genuinely thought what he was doing was working in the only way, and so.
Gotta love those Walking Dead characters who are just so cray that other survivors from the apocalypse who are also crazy are like,
I mean, she's
not
weird.
that one.
I just really can't get a read on her. I mean, she seems like a villain at first, and then she's like really nice and wants to help them, and then she's like shooting Morgan and saying, "I'm just so sick of your face." It's like, where did this even come from? Have you guys even talked? Like, I don't understand. It's so. Anyway, all right. Next piece of information: Scott Gimple told Entertainment Weekly that there is no end in sight for the Walking Dead franchise. And that makes sense because he's been touting the Walking Dead universe, something that he wants to build. And this goes on to another point where he did tease that there is something in the works that may or may not involve revisiting old Walking Dead characters, say Abraham, Glenn, Carl, people like that, and doing some kind of what I would imagine would be like a one-off thing, kind of like how we saw Flight 462, or we saw, the other little mini Fear series. And then Chandler Riggs added fuel to the fire by quote tweeting it with the eye emoji, which I love using, by the way. So that's pretty huge.
My money's on a Rick movie for that one.
Maybe, but he did the eye emojis to the one-off character things.
If you're doing a Rick movie and you want to talk about the things, like you have to assume going into a Rick movie that there are people who aren't Walking Dead fans who are meeting Rick Grimes for the very first time. It's like every single time that you show Batman, you gotta fucking murder the Waynes.
That's a good point, especially in a theatrical release like that.
Yeah, and if you're showing like how family and loyalty is important to Rick Grimes, one of the best ways to show that is to show his relationship through his son. I think it would be crazy if you didn't see Carl in some sort of flashback in the beginning of a Rick movie.
Totally agree. And I'm sorry, I have one more piece of information.
I can't
This
take
is
it.
insane.
This one really upset the fans on Twitter. We're not going to get too far deep into it, but Scott Gimple was defending Fear the Walking Dead Season 5, which, however you feel about it.
It's the best.
Okay. However you feel about it, we know how Woody feels. On IMDb, it is the most negatively reviewed season of Fear the Walking Dead.
Whatever.
But weirdly, again, worth point making, the ratings improved that season. So while it might have been negatively reviewed by people who were vocal, a lot of people tuned in.
Yes. So what Scott Gimple had to say about that was that, yes, he sees the criticism, and he says that he is playing the extreme long game. And people will look at Season 5 like they looked at Season 2, where at the time, people did not like Season 2. They thought the farm was boring. But then once Shane opens the barn doors and we see dead Sophia, everyone's like, oh, shit, this season's secretly amazing. Now, unfortunately, there wasn't an event like that in Fear Season 5, but the point that Scott was trying to make is that hold on, this is a setup season for the payoff that will be season 6. So in the future, after you've seen season 6, season 5 might make a lot more sense.
You know what?
It's not that it doesn't make sense. It's just more of like a left turn in terms. It was just I think also like a left turn in terms of like tone because they got new showrunners. But I'm excited for that. Definitely makes me excited for season 6.
Here's what I'm gonna tell all of you monsters, and I hope you're listening to this. If you had the gall, the unmitigated gall, to go on IMDb and give this thing a poor rating, what more could you people possibly want? You had a nuclear explosion. You had John splitting a bullet on an axe head. You had Dwight. You had Morgan and Dwight. You had a beer bottle balloon. Again, you had a nuclear fallout. You had people taking showers outside of nuclear reactors while they're falling out. What more do you need in your TV show?
We shouldn't have given that Red Bull to you. That was a
I can
mistake.
quit whenever I want.
Wipes spit off forehead.
We also had 2 planes, a plane crash. We had a treehouse of kids who, for a defense system, used walkers in like a circle around their tree forest
That's kind of
thing,
genius, as far
and
as
they
I'm
used their
concerned.
guts for rope.
We
Yeah,
don't
that was-
deserve season 5. That is why people are so mad that television was able to go to this promised land, this paradise
All
that
right.
they
We
are
got a cat.
so up in arms about. I cannot oversell how amazing season 5 is of Fear the
Wow.
Walking Dead. And if you don't disagree, don't talk to me or my son, the Fear the Walking Dead, ever again.
I would just like to take this moment to point out that not only did we get everything that Woody said, we also got a cat who got his own episode.
We got a
entitled Skid
cat!
Mark.
Daniel came back for reasons. Anyway, so that wraps up all of the news. God knows Scott Gimple will probably keep talking, but a lot of exciting things. Even if you guys don't watch Fear the Walking Dead, it seems like season 6 is going to be super dope, especially for Walking Dead fans. So maybe catch up or watch some of our React videos or panel to screens or rundowns, and that way you can kind of catch up a little bit faster.
I'm so torqued up for this episode. I don't know how we're gonna finish this recording. I am amped. Let's go.
Great. Well, I imagine Woody in 5 seconds is going to seem a lot calmer for some reason.
I might take a nap.
All right, so now let's go on to The Walking Dead World Beyond.
So, Walking Dead World Beyond, third series in the Walking Dead franchise, likely will premiere, we think, either the same night as the season 10 finale of The Walking Dead or very close thereafter. It's going to be a 10-episode first season. It's created by Scott Gimple, know him and love him, and Matthew Negrete, who was a writer on The Walking Dead and wrote some pretty big episodes, including Wrath, which was the season 8 finale, and a couple of episodes in season 10. Directed by Jordan Vogt Roberts.
That director is pretty exciting because he did Kong Skull Island.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He's if they ever make it. I think he's at the helm of the Metal Gear movie, which excites me greatly.
I like seeing feature directors on big episodes of The Walking Dead because The
Yeah.
Walking Dead, I think one of the things that I've always really liked about it, and I assume what a lot of other people have really liked about it, is how it feels like a movie so much of the time. So this makes me very excited just to look at this pilot.
Yeah.
So, Alexander, who in The Walking Dead, we have Daryl, Rick, Michonne, Maggie. In Fear, we have John, June, Alicia,
Strand.
Who are the characters we're going to meet in Walking Dead World Beyond? Who are the names we're going to start getting to know?
Well, essentially, The Walking Dead World Beyond takes place in Nebraska in a community and is supposed ostensibly following teens who were either born or raised after or during the apocalypse. So nobody from before. And these teens are 2 sisters, Hope and Iris, played by Alexa Mansour and Aaliyah Royale, respectively. And it looks like from the trailer, their father has gone missing and they want to go on a mission to find them. Also, the teens are like, we want to get out of our community and rebel. And they're tired of living in like a college campus, which is understandable.
It feels like a little bit Fallout, a little bit Stand By Me.
Yeah. And then it really does feel a lot like Stand By Me, given like all the shots we have of them walking around.
And also, the show does take place 10 years after the zombie apocalypse
Yes.
hit.
Yeah, so these are all like kids who have been like raised within like, but it seems like from the trailer they've all been like raised in essentially like they said in the Scott Gimple talked about it in the EW interview that they're basically raised in like the Walking Dead equivalent of First World. Like these teens don't really know, they know the apocalypse has happened, but it's like they've been raised in comfort. So to go outside these walls is like a very like scary new thing that, of course, like every teen wants to do type deal.
What does CRM stand for? Do you guys have any guesses? Alexandra, Woody?
Cromulent.
Cromulent?
Romulan.
Look it up.
Manifesto.
There's a lot of C words out there. There's Crisco, there's cat, and you went with cromulent.
Sure did.
It's a real Scrabble winner. If you pick that one up, congratulations on winning your Scrabble match.
Woody, CRM. Best guess.
Credence. Revival movement.
Nice.
I think
They're just big CCR fans.
CCR is the new religion.
And I got to say, it was a very strong pilot. I'm going to be honest with you guys, on, if something's good or bad, but it was a very strong pilot. And I can't wait for you guys to see it in a few months.
I'm pretty excited. Like,
Yeah.
I think that just going off the trailer and from what we've seen, look, I make a lot of jokes in the podcast. I make a lot of jokes in the panel to screen about how teens are the red shirts of Walking Dead. And the only like we had the
Not
joke
on this show.
at the end of season 9 or with the what do you call 3 hilltop teens on spikes a good start?
Yeah.
Like
That's like a lawyer joke.
yeah, that's
Oh, man.
But this, honestly, though, like I see the trailer for it and like the tone of the music that plays and everything, like it just has like a much lighter feel to it that still is very much within the zombie apocalypse, but it's much more about like, it seems like it's more of a like coming of age in the apocalypse type deal, which I think is terrific. And it also, sidebar, got me into an awkward situation today at Skybound.
Okay.
As I was waiting for you to come down into our $1 million podcast studio.
It's just so hard to get to because there's so many elevators and security clearances.
Yeah, the retinal scan is a real problem. Ever since you got contact lenses.
A very luxurious green room. I always get distracted by craft services. Sorry.
Oh my God, so many snacks.
But
Endless
anyway.
snacks. So I'm talking with some of the editors about World Beyond, hyping the podcast, and I'm telling them how much I enjoy the idea that like the tone with the teens is great. And I'm looking at them and I'm nearly clapping, being like, I want Superbad in the apocalypse. And as I'm midway through, Robert Kirkman passes by in the doorway and he turns and we make eye contact as I'm going, Superbad. And he just continued walking and like got off into his like Tesla that flies and then continued on. And I'm like, well, that's the danger of working here. It's like talking about like Spider-Man while Stan Lee walks past type deal.
He can be intimidating from a glance, but once you start to talk to him, he's normal.
He's funnier than you think.
Oh, I've seen him in panels,
he's
and I think
fucking
he's
hilarious.
hilarious. Like, I actually, yeah.
All
I
right,
agree
we're getting
with
on
you.
a tangent on Robert.
But part of like, so it's not just the sisters who venture out; it's a cadre of teens, which is sort of, it's interesting because I feel like the venturing out and going on an adventure is the only way I would have wanted a show focused on teens. I would not, like a hilltop teen soap would have been upsetting.
No,
But
it wouldn't have worked.
this actually makes sense. Like this, I mean,
Right.
not to say that there haven't been other ideas that make sense, but this really makes sense in a way that I think is going to play really well.
Yeah.
But there also appear to be like tertiary character adults. Annette Mahendru of The Americans is one playing Huck.
Huck is a main character.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, but I mean, not the okay.
Just from the
Huck,
trailers,
and then-
it seems like there is like a cadre of 4 like teens who are like they're your Breakfast Club type group, and then you have Annette's character Huck, and then Nico's character Felix.
Yes.
And those two seem like the older group. Like if this was the Hunger Games, they would come from districts 1 and 2. You know,
Right,
like-
yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed from the pilot, and you can probably see in the trailer, is that unlike The Walking Dead and Fear, I think, I'm not a huge film head, but it seems like it's not shot on film. It's shot digitally. And honestly, I prefer that. I think Walking Dead in film looks good, but I think, you really sacrifice night shots and you sacrifice just sometimes the quality can be really fuzzy. This Walking Dead World Beyond is crystal clear. It looks great. It honestly feels like you're watching like The Leftovers or something. Like it feels like almost HBO like where it is really well shot and I don't know. And they have night scenes and flashbacks and stuff like that, and they look amazing.
There's certain things that you can do within film, and there's always that classic quality to film that you can do. But you do run up against some of the technological limitations of it. And like if you're not processing it in a particular way, combined with all of your visual effects, once you get it compressed to TV and increasingly streaming, like you do put yourself in that position for fidelity loss when you get into like darker scenes.
I'm just excited to see where the season goes, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. I know I jumped the gun a little bit because you guys aren't going to be able to see it for another 3 months,
And
4
you
months.
will not stop talking about it.
I won't. I'm just excited, and it seems like this is a very rich story. I'm excited.
I think it's cool because there's each show has its own flavor, and the OG Walking Dead is true to the source material of the books. There is crushing darkness. There is high stakes drama. It's a human story. Like, it's very much like in the mud, in the dirt. Then you get to Fear the Walking Dead, which is a superhero show. And that is its own, like...
We've established that.
It's colored slightly differently. You have a John Wick type who can split a bullet on an axe head. Like, these are superhumans living in a different, like, world. And that is great. And that is why Fear is amazing.
Beer bottle balloon.
Oh, beer bottle balloon! Like, top moment in the whole TV history.
Fantastic.
But this show, like, feels like it has its... I will be interested to see what versions of a teen road trip tropes that they'll go down. Like,
Yeah.
are you going to have the, like... the prissy, preppy, blonde girl, for lack of... I don't think there are any
Gonna have
blondes
a
in this.
preppy
But like,
dude.
yeah, so, I mean, there's one dude...
Elton.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Elton, played by Nicholas Cantu, looks like he stepped out of a Wes Anderson movie.
So we're now going to move on to something that Scott Gimple said in an Entertainment Weekly interview this week. He mentioned that there will most likely definitely be crossover potential for this show, meaning either going to bring a character from Fear or Walking Dead or both to this show, or we'll see some kind of aspect that, you know, they share the universe together. And they do share the universe, but so the three of us are going to try to come up with, and we don't know, by the way. I know I've seen the first episode, but I have no idea who this crossover character could be, but we're going to say who we think it should be. And Woody, you look excited. I'm going to start with you. Who do you think should cross over into Walking Dead World Beyond?
Who do I think should? I think I would like to see John from Fear jump into it. Because, look, something can go on or whatever. It just being The Walking Dead, I do not think that John and June as a couple are long for this world. I'm not even looking in Johnny's direction for any sort of, like, clue or something that will give me any indication.
I don't know.
But I think, like, John with, like, a troop of kids to lend his, like, Hawkeye superhero-ness, who also, like, is like a Western lawman type deal in Nebraska. Like, I think that tracks for me. That's fun.
You know, if you put that in space, it's The Mandalorian.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What is there's a comic that is a lone, I think the title means like lone wolf and cub.
Yeah.
Lone Wolf and Cub was an old manga that got turned into a movie and a TV show.
Yeah, but there's a comic that's about a samurai who carries around a baby. Is it called Lone Wolf?
It's called Lone
It's
Wolf
called
and
Lone
Cub.
Wolf and Cub. Yeah, you got it right.
Oh, okay. Because I think if I remember correctly, at WonderCon a couple of years ago, when they were introducing this new cast and introducing what's his name, John Dory.
Oh, Garrett Dillahunt.
Garrett Dillahunt, I think, specifically said if I could do something, like, I would love to do that. Like, that's a storyline that I would want to. He's like, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I love that. I think I'm crediting that quote correctly. But and so yes, he would be such a good dad. And he would be such a fun dad for these kids.
I agree.
I think John has. I'm sorry, don't mean to step on you, but I get so excited about the idea of John being the son of, like, roam the wasteland, like, lone, like, gunman, the stranger type, like, John Wayne guy, and, like, he just gets more and more Western as, like, the years go on, and until he's finally this, like, Wolverine type, who just, I don't know. The more that I think about it, the more it delights me. Put him in a poncho, stick him in Nebraska, it works.
I honestly want John Dory to encounter Alpha in some capacity. It's only going to happen in my head, but I just want to see those extremes meet so badly.
Alexandra, but who would you like to see cross over into World Beyond?
Part of me wants to see Heath and have that kind of fun
I
explanation
like that.
to bring sort of not only just to see a character for I don't want to call it stunt casting, but I don't want to just see somebody show up because that'd be cool. I would really want it to super, super, super make sense.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it will. But Heath would be something. Heath is obviously someone who remains mysteriously gone. And I feel like we've gotten some kind of hints that he is with CRM.
He is.
Yeah, okay. So it kind of makes sense for me in a way that really locks these universes together in a very believable and organic way. And that's a good universe blend is very much my shit.
Okay. So for me, mine is less practical than yours. I think Heath showing up in World Beyond is very possible. if not the movies or both. I would like to see Alicia from Fear move over to World Beyond.
Yeah.
I think like Paul George, who is just, really good player in Indiana, he just needed to change his scenery and to really flourish. And, he spent some time in OKC with Russ and it worked out okay. But I'm saying Alicia going to World Beyond would be like Paul George eventually finding his way to the Clippers. Clippers, hot, new young team, going to be really fresh. And he's amazing. But anyway,
Wait, I got a quick follow-up question.
Sure.
So if she's your Paul George, who do you think in World Beyond is the Kawhi?
Oh, that's great. Who's the Kawhi? Well, she'd have to be. It's hard because you have to. Well, I guess everyone's new to the Clippers this year, pretty much, except their bench. But who's the Kawhi? I don't know. Who do we think is going to be the main character? I think it might be Hope. I feel like she's been used most in all the promos.
Really? Yeah, it sounds like, it looks like it's going to be these two lead teen girls kind of spearheading this mission, and they're going to be the sort of they're going to be the center focal points of the coming of age stories, along with Silas and Elton.
Yes. I thought, to me, especially in the early trailers, like Aaliyah Royale's character Iris got most of the lines, and then in the second trailer, she gets like the funny button where she's going to like.
Yeah.
This show's gonna be fun. She goes to stab the walker and then vomits on it because she's ostensibly never fought a walker before.
Right. She's definitely the proper one, the goody two shoes ish. So that'll be an interesting dynamic where Hope is kind of
gross bugs.
Yeah, Hope is kind of the rebel. So it's gonna be great. Can't wait for everyone to see it. So yeah, those are our crossover characters. Let us know on Twitter. We posted the article about the crossover. Who you guys would want to see crossover into World Beyond from Walking Dead or Fear?
A+.
Aside from all the Fear stuff, I think Alicia, as we've sort of seen Alicia come of age, and I would like to meet Alicia as an adult woman who is seasoned and kind of in sort of the Kim Dickens position. I don't know that I need her to like lead the kids or teach them stuff. But I would just like to see. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the kind of warrior lady that she becomes, because I think that this balance of being at peace with herself and also the rage and the fighting skills she's picked up, make for just one of those great superhuman characters that you love to watch, but you also root for and have faith in. And
the thing that fascinates me about all the crossover stuff, and if you are. The moment we can't help it, especially in like this day and age, if you are going to create this sort of shared universe and you are going to have characters cross over, everybody will eventually ask, well, when do you get all the toys together? When do you have the Avengers?
Yeah.
And I think that's enticing and intoxicating to think about. I think it is dangerous. I think with the Avengers or any sort of like group thing, you need to have a threat or event so large that it unifies the groups. And if you're talking about Virginia plus Nebraska, and I think Fear's in Texas.
Fear's in
Those
near Austin.
They're not at separate corners of the U.S., but it's very the threat.
They might as well be in this with horse and buggies. They are
exactly, unless you have the helicopters, which CRM does. Like you can't organically connect these universes very well unless you are able to create something that organically makes sense to bring them all together.
Right.
I'm sure they are working on that in the lab to figure out like how that all works. That is a very large mountain to climb. I hope that they do it. That'll be interesting. It's just super difficult.
I kind of think that's something I would want to see like as a seasoning on the shows, like very here and there, and not something that has to be shoehorned in like we discussed. But I think you could kind of go whole hog on that in the movies, in the Rick movies.
Maybe. I worry. I don't want it to turn into like Arrowverse, where it's like, oh, this is the time of the year where all the characters get together for some reason.
Sure.
And I don't think it's a great idea. I'd like to keep the show separate and just keep it at like light crossovers.
Well, them like insisting on that for years and years kind of confounded me at first, and then the more I was watching, the more I was like, I think that's a really good attitude to have, to really, really, really hold back on it, because it's true. You do want to give a separate show room to breathe and grow its own unique story and audience without having other characters kind of come in, because really your brain, you get used to that really quickly and your brain kind of wants more, and then you just have you have one kind of tentpole show and another show that's kind of something different.
Feeder shows,
and so that's, I feel like for that reason is why they've shied away from it in the past.
I just Fear's already, sorry Johnny,
okay.
the stakes of the problem you would need to face also have to make real world sense in a universe that can't ever go cosmic. It can't involve gods or aliens. Like Fear this season had a nuclear meltdown, and that was just contained within that show, which kind of makes sense. Like, who else are you going to like go and warn? But even if like Nebraska or like that community or Alexandria is facing some massive thing that would wipe out every single character, it wouldn't really register on any other character's like readings unless you're starting to connect people with the radios and the helicopters and stuff like that.
Right. Well, crossovers aside, I think what's most exciting for me as someone who's been doing this job for almost 5 years is that CRM is not from the comics. It's a community entirely unique to the show. I don't know where they're going with it. What is their reach? Like, do they control the whole country? Do they control just the central part, the western part? I mean,
like what's their purpose? What's their mission?
Right. And that's what's so exciting, because with Walking Dead, you're like, okay, I'm guessing at some point they'll get to the end of the Whisper War, and then we'll meet Princess, and then we'll go to the Commonwealth, and then we'll deal with a Commonwealth arc, and then maybe we'll time jump. Who knows?
Less surprises for you.
Less surprises. Yeah, I pretty much always know what's coming. I guess with Fear, I also don't know what's coming, but still, anyway, the CRM community is very exciting. So,
I'm with you. I kind of want to know. I feel like we haven't seen anyone this sophisticated since season 1 of The Walking Dead got to the CDC, and we had that doctor's galaxy brain, and he was able to do some exposition and explain, here's how the epidemic worked around the world. Here are the basic facts about it. So we got, even though we had this very limited worldview at the first, we got a little glimpse into everything else, and all those glimpses into what else is happening in the broader universe are very, very interesting to me. Like, I love that one-off comic about Rick's brother in Spain.
Right.
The alien.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I like the possibilities of CRM because I feel like we're going to get a better picture of what is happening globally. Mm-hmm. I don't want everything. I don't want all the information, but I find it. I think that's why I find them super interesting, is what they could reveal.
It's gonna be enticing, and I think there's gonna be that pull to the writing staff to, if you've got these CRM folks who have all this technology working, like just looking at that little like strike team that comes off the
they're so cool.
Like Julia Ormond, who looks ready to host the most lit Hunger Games.
Oh my gosh, fantastic. Her name is Elizabeth.
Got a fabulous wardrobe.
And incredible accessories. I mean, there's somebody in a little blacksmith shop who's making all those 3-ring CRM things and like glossing them and spending like time and then presenting them to the group. And they're like, these are pretty good, but can they be a little bit smoother? And then he goes and works on that for like another week. And then he finishes a whole batch and they give them all to their lieutenants. And that is someone's job.
She's the only person in the apocalypse that looks like she's walked out of a department store.
She looks amazing.
Yeah.
And she's also British, so that adds some extra flavor.
So she's okay. Now everything about that. Wait, in the show she has a British accent.
Yes.
Oh, she's a villain.
That's pretty much it.
I can't wait for this show.
Like the CRM community, I'm also like, another thing I think that to Woody's point earlier was that, or to what you said, like, we're not sure what the limits of their power are. I am very curious as to also their limitations. How much of their force is, we had some resources and we have some people, but is it like the Sanctuary? They can't. Is it like the Saviors? They can't produce any of their own food. They have the muscle and they have some of the sophistication, or is the reason that they were powerful because they ever experience the apocalypse like the survivors we've seen before? Like, right. Did Julia Ormond ever not sleep in a bed? Because it looks like she's had it pretty easy.
Right.
Well, the whole like, when we met the Commonwealth, the whole bit that made the Commonwealth so impressive was that they were able to do an entirely like normal looking world within the confines of a like larger, I would say small to medium sized town.
Yep.
So I think there's going to be, if we see a whole new city, wherever that is, and that city is totally fine as if nothing had happened, I'm going to have kind of a big problem with that, because that's kind of unrealistic within the world that we've set. However, you can show that these people are like badasses and not to be messed with if they have actually managed to clear out a town or a city or something like that, but it's still not completely fine. They've just managed to like keep control over it and like wall it around.
Sure, but this is... Yeah, I completely agree. We've seen teases of the helicopters dating all the way back to season 6 of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So World Beyond is like, here you go. Here's a bunch of new information about it.
And
you're like, thank God.
One thing we haven't mentioned in terms of crossover is Jadis.
Oh, I mean, well, yeah. I mean, that seems obvious.
Well, I guess
I think
people are mostly expecting. I'm personally expecting to see her in the movies because of Rick, but I think it would be even more interesting to see her pop up, like not pop up in the movies, and then be like, "Where's Jadis?" And then like some episode of World Beyond have the kids encounter her.
I could see her being essentially like our Nick Fury type.
I could. Yeah. What about Laurie's ghost coming back as sort of like an Obi-Wan Force ghost?
Oh my God, yes.
Just where he...
Yes.
I think that would be perfect because I think she, as you're a ghost, I think you can move at the pace of someone walking, at a brisk pace. So I think she's just been ghosting around and she probably made her way to Nebraska.
I would think if you're a Force ghost, you can do a lot with space-time, and I think Laurie was a pretty big badass for the first couple of seasons when she was on The Walking Dead. So I think she'd be a dope Force ghost.
Be awesome.
I would like to see her transition from a Force ghost to I'm sorry, Johnny, a Battlestar Galactica type ghost. Who is now like showing and like dispensing advice to like one particular character, and then you have another one who's all of a sudden like, oh shit, I can see her too. Like,
yeah.
Oh, like a Capra, like the Cylon, not
head
Starbuck.
Six. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, not like oh my God, the Starbuck nonsense. Fucking goddamn it.
Yep.
That's the one time that I swore on the podcast was for that one fucking Starbuck moment. That's two.
Like Starbucks?
Starbucks. A character on BSG who had a pretty divisive ending on the show.
I speak for a lot of fans when I describe it as
second.
Not third. I think
Johnny is
he ended his arc
in
perfectly.
Our spin-off podcast for subjecting Johnny to watch Battlestar Galactica will be great. If you want to see Johnny be subjected to Battlestar Galactica
just the pilot,
and do a podcast of it, send a tweet my way at Woody Tondorf and let me know.
We have a lot more hiatus episodes.
Johnny does Battlestar.
All right, so that's kind of everything we know about The Walking Dead World Beyond. Obviously, I can't say anymore, but I think we've covered most of it, honestly.
Yeah, we've
covered the characters, some motivations, possible villain, and
definite villain.
Sorry.
And like I said, I think it's going to be a phenomenal show, just judging off the pilot. So, when has a pilot ever steered us wrong?
So out of this, but so knowing what we do know about these characters, which one, if you had to pick now, which one's your rider? Which one's your Daryl you'll ride if they get killed?
Who's your instant stan?
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm gonna go with Huck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Annette's character. Simply because I'm a huge The American stan, and Nina was such an amazing character, excuse me. And so anything that she's in, I'm immediately locked in. Also, she has cool red sunglasses, and she is a badass. So I'm all in.
I know she's mostly the main character, but Hope, I think, is really cool. And she's, like I said, a rebel and way more rebellious than I was as a kid. But anyway, she seems really cool, and I hope she makes it.
I like her various sweaters.
Yep.
I'm kind of this is very shallow, but I'm torn between Felix because he looks real cool and Julia Ormond and Elizabeth because she looks real cool. But I love Julia Ormond, so I'm probably gonna and I like villains and like smooth, sexy villains, which the Apocalypse fashion has not really allowed for. So I think my Insta stan, not in moral character, but in just sheer entertainment value, is gonna be Elizabeth.
I'm just gonna step in real quick there and actually and take a contrary opinion that in order to be a big bad in The Walking Dead, you need fantastic style. I mean,
style, not necessarily but this I'm talking like Apocalypse, like tattered style.
Gotcha. But they've all looked like the governor looked like he just like strolled out of an REI or like LL Bean. He had like cool hunting jackets and his belt was sweet. Everybody was Negan for Halloween.
But Elizabeth looks like she walked out of Macy's. That's what I'm talking about. She doesn't look like she looks like
St. John for villains.
came from a part of the world that had no apocalypse.
Yes.
She's guesting in the apocalypse. So yeah, Elizabeth.
That's the name of our spin-off to this podcast.
And that wraps up another episode of Talk Dead to Me. Thank you guys so much again for listening. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys are excited for Walking Dead World Beyond. Obviously, we are. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Happy birthday, Nate.
Happy birthday, Nate.
Happy birthday, Nate.
He doesn't watch the show.
Yeah, I think he was a one. I think it was a one-time thing where he saw a voicemail tweet. He just called in and never checked up on it.
I think he forgot that he did it.
I think, I think
what makes
Nate
you think he
exists on a
forgot?
different plane and just descended down, graced us with his presence for the briefest of moments,
Absolutely.
and returned from whence he came.
There you go.
Anyway, so I made eye contact with Robert Kirkman before he went into the bathroom.
It's good.
Good timing.
And the worst part was I said, good luck.
The worst. All right.
Please don't, Alexandra, please don't put that in.